So we were just let into the demo room here at Google's Fall Hardware event, and I have the new Pixel 2 in my hand. You'll notice that this is the kinda blue color. It doesn't really come across as blue necessarily in all kinds of light. It's more of like a gray kind of color, but you can immediately tell that you have the kind of blue color when you see this turquoise power button on the side. So the Pixel 2 is of course the smaller version, has a 5-inch display with a 1080p resolution. It is AMOLED, just like the 2XL, which we'll look at in a minute. But other than that, the differences are very, very minimal. You'll notice that the Pixel 2 is of course narrower and shorter and lighter, but it has this same aluminum coating all the way around on the outside that has this kind of soft touch coating on it. It feels a little bit like plastic, but it is aluminum underneath, and it goes all the way around to the sides. And then on the front, you'll notice that the big difference with the Pixel 2 versus the 2XL, which we'll look at in a moment, is the top and bottom bezels are considerably larger, and it also has a flat 2.5D, technically, piece of glass on the front, but it doesn't taper off to the edges as much as on the XL. You really notice once you launch into the home screen the size of those bezels on the top and bottom. Yes, they do hold stereo speakers. You have one speaker on the top and one speaker on the bottom. But as you'll see here, the Pixel 2 XL also has stereo speakers despite having smaller bezels. So internally, it's the exact same between the Pixel 2 and 2XL. The Pixel 2 has a smaller battery, of course, 27 milliamp hour, but beyond that, you're looking at a Snapdragon 835, 4 gigs of RAM, no SD card slot to associate with the 64 gigs of internal storage, and on the bigger Pixel 2 XL, the battery gets bumped up to 3520 milliamp hour, but that's really the only change. The change compared to last year, you'll notice, there is just a USB-C port on the bottom. There is no headphone jack on either of these phones. You do, however, get IP67 water resistance and dust resistance, so that is a big improvement, even though it may be tied to that loss of a headphone jack. On both phones, Google is talking a big game about the camera. We have a 12.2 megapixel single camera on the back, and it has laser autofocus and this dual pixel autofocus where it uses all of the pixels for face detect autofocus as well. Google's doing all of its HDR plus magic, of course, and it's also actually doing a portrait mode with just a single lens. It says it can use its software and machine learning to do a portrait mode with a single lens. It can even do it with the front-facing camera as well, which is really, really neat. They're toting a DxO Mark mobile score of 98, which of course is the highest ever for what that's worth. But based on what the original Pixels were able to do, we're super excited about what the Pixel 2 and 2XL can do in the camera department. So sitting next to the standard Pixel 2 here, we see that we have the 2XL. So the larger device has a little bit of differences in terms of feel and everything, but the external build is basically identical. From the back, the aluminum, all of the touch finish on it, the glass on the top, you notice the cameras are a little bit different. But the big thing here is up front where we have a lot smaller bezels, even though it keeps the speaker at the top and the bottom for stereo speakers. The bezels are quite a bit smaller. You'll also notice that it's an 18:9 display, so it's 2:1. It's taller and skinnier than the Pixel 2 is. So you see this is all just bezel here, and you get the less bezel here, and it all gets stretched out. Obviously that gives them more room for the components inside as well. So it's all of the same components there, except for you get the larger 3520 milliamp hour battery. You also notice when we get a little closer up on the side that the glass tails and kind of curves off, a little bit of a 3D waterfall effect that you don't get on the standard Pixel 2. So you notice just a little bit of difference here in how it feels on the sides. When I start to get these side by side now, you'll see that the Pixel 2 is a little blockier versus the 2XL being a little more curved, and you really get that feeling in the hand. Obviously, it's a little bit wider, so you have a different part of your hand that's touching it, but it is flat across the back. And when you view them in profile, they look basically the same. You'll also notice that now that we have the black ones here, that you just have regular power and volume rockers. You don't have any different colors or anything like that. The nicely little embossed G logo. And to kind of wrap it up here, we'll give you the two side by side. So that's the Pixel 2 on the right and 2XL on the left. You notice that really you're not going to notice too much of a difference in terms of you see one on the street, as long as you see the two colors that are the same versus the kind of blue that we showed earlier. When you look at them from the side, they have a very similar profile, and again from the front you see that's where the differences really come in.
Not as good as iPhone.
And then down on the bottom you see that it's basically a very similar profile as well. So that's your first look here at the Pixel 2 and Pixel 2 XL. We're going to have so much more on these two phones over on AndroidCentral.com and on our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.